until I everyone. But I found a place I actually like that I applied for last week, so we'll see. It's like fingers crossed that it goes smoothly, but then I also
What
it'll
part
be bittersweet.
What part of Santa Cruz?
I've been trying to find, I like to be city adjacent, and I don't like to be right in the middle of things, so Felton, Bonnie Doon,
Oh.
Scotts Valley, that whole area.
Yeah.
But it's after the fire, there's not a lot of units, so I might wind up in Westland. Anyway, I don't want to take up our meeting time. We'll have to catch up a little bit more afterwards.
All right.
Sorry to dominate the conversation. But just lovely to see everyone in person again.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have another.
One, two, three, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 voting members. Actually,
All right, I'll call this meeting to order.
Ready for a roll call vote? Okay, member roll call. In person, first time in 3 years. James, okay. Natalie Sayre. John Bars.
Here.
Peter Markey.
Here.
Ryan Casey. Jonathan Winslow.
Here.
And I'm Lauren Silberman, and I'm here. And then we have four vacant positions, so hope you are all recruiting. Natural Resource Conservation Staff, Jim Howard. San Mateo County Agricultural Commissioner, Warren Little. Farm Bureau Executive Director, Jess Brown. And UC Co-op Extension Representative, Frank McPherson. Also don't think I've met him. And then zooming into us virtually, San Mateo County Planning Liaison, Summer Burleson.
Here.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the 7 voting members, we have a quorum. There's an extra agenda if anyone needs one.
There's some here.
Okay.
Okay. So agenda item 3 is oral communications. That allows the public to address the committee with any matter not on the agenda. If your subject's not on the agenda, I will recognize you at this time. Customarily limit comments to 5 minutes. Anybody? How many things?
We
Yeah,
had,
please go.
that, Mountain Lion meeting, Zoom meeting, and had a lot of interesting talk. And then also we had the in-person Farm Bureau meeting that had, rather than the academic side, you know, what it's like to live with Mountain Lion. But it just from my personal observation versus what Mid-Penn reports on their website on their property. But right now, I mean, it seems like every other day in Half Moon Bay, we've got a couple of lions hanging around. So it's been, you know, it's been a lot in the news, and I think everybody just has to be really careful and vigilant because we don't want anybody else to get hurt. And, you know, and hopefully some of these programs like the academic folks are promoting will be helpful. But yeah, it's a little alarming, just the amount of encounters that are happening. So everybody please just be careful and mindful. And, you know, we have to work together on this issue because yeah, it's quite pronounced, you know, activities and things.
Which Mountain Lion meeting are they're Mid-Penn presented to the public?
Well, it was who actually
Or was it
Sponsored
The one
it.
that had the farm bureau.
No, the one that was
Who's that community?
the La Honda community, but they had representatives from Mid-Penn, they had representatives from UC Davis, they had, it wasn't the Kuma project, but it was another Santa Cruz Lion nonprofit, and I'm sure, John, that we can get you the it was like a 2-hour Zoom.
Wow.
But they had a lot of information and studies, but I know that they're going to be making it available to the public, but it was organized by the La Honda community, but they invited people to the school, and then at the last minute, they just did Zoom because of the weather.
Okay,
But yeah, and the Farm Bureau they sent out, I mean, that's how I found out, because we got them just sent out
Yeah, people wanted to meet together, so we broadcast the Zoom at our own.
but they also sent out a notice of the meeting, because I don't live in La Honda, and I used to when I was younger, but you know, that we got notice of the meeting, because otherwise, like I say, a lot of people didn't get notice of the meeting.
I went because there was a flyer in the Sangerville post office that it would they were having it at La Honda Elementary School. But and there was a lot of us that didn't go, but we didn't know that they changed it to Zoom. And so, and they didn't post that. So we weren't able to attend. And yes, there's a lot of mountains, so on in January. San Laurel, sister saw one last week in her place, right by her house. So it's off of 92. It's too many.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw one, or my neighbor saw one in front of my house at Pescadero, about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of them out right now.
Okay, anyone else from the public? All right. Agenda item 4, committee member updates and or questions. So anyone have news or concerns to share that is not on the agenda? It is a committee. I just wanted to share the meeting that we had last week for the farm worker. I'm not sure what the technical name of the committee is.
Farm Workers Commission, I think, or Farm Worker Advisory Commission.
Yeah.
Farm Worker Advisory Commission, not committee. So we had our second meeting and we elected officers, a chair and a vice chair, both members of nonprofits that serve the farm worker community. We did have a nomination for a farm worker to be a chair, but he respectfully declined, and it might make sense to be able to, communicate more easily in both languages, receive emails and stuff. To have, I think there was a representative of Coast Side
Hope
and then Puente were our chair and vice chair.
Judith Guerrero and Karina.
Karina. And then we did also get a announcement from the Board of Supervisors, our new representative.
Supervisor
Right,
Mueller.
yes.
Supervisor Mueller, and again, kind of addressing some of the same issues that we heard from the planning department in our last meeting, talking about the incident in Half Moon Bay and the county's response with the task force. He's emphasized how they were hoping to do it in a very deliberate and deliberate way that was worked with the community as much as possible, but really feeling that they needed to address farm worker housing on the coast. And he mentioned that there was funding, that they have some grant money to help out growers who might reach out to them for loans as like a kind of a small thing. He said 1.2 million, which doesn't seem like a ton of money, but if you have like upgrades that you want to do to your housing, we can reach out to the county for that support. And then you mentioned the plan for the intermediate term, having secured funding to build 40 to 60 units, so that if it's necessary to ask people to vacate their current housing, there will be something available. but it's unclear how quickly that can be built. Sounds like they have a piece of land.
You know where the land is?
Yeah, I didn't ask that question. I'm sorry, I didn't. Do you have any knowledge about that?
I don't know where it is.
I believe that, and I do not represent City of Half Moon Bay, this is just from our farm worker community group, but I believe some locations in the city proper have been identified as potential locations for both farm worker and affordable housing. And the city's working with both the county, and I think a boat is now engaged on that project to work on developing that, so it's likely going to be an off-farm solution, which I know is what a lot of the farmers have really been pushing for. Infrastructure wise.
Is one of the sites looking at the Catholic Church?
I'm not sure, but I know that Puente has approached the Catholic Church on their property, but I don't know any. I've just overheard some conversations around that.
They don't want to do it.
And there are also the city prior to our horrible situation in January. There's the site right here that the city owns, 555 Kelly,
Mhm.
that they had identified that, but that was even prior to.
Yeah, so actually, Alas, sorry, I realized I just said Puente when I meant Alas. But Alas successfully won a grant to develop 555 Kelly right here into 40 farm worker housing units, complete with, and first level is going to be like community meeting rooms and a community kitchen and some communal spaces, and then 40 units, which I'm really just on a personal level curious to see 40 units get fit on that little postage stamp of a property, but that is the plan, and they've already have some initial funding from the county and the city, and a lot of people putting resources behind that. I'm not sure, I'm curious if
That's
Supervisor
the
Mulligan,
thing
yeah,
he was referring to, or if there's an additional. He did mention, I believe he gave a range of a 40 to 60, so it
Mhm.
sounds like it could be another project.
yeah,
Because this one probably has like a design already.
yeah, I think so.
Who generally owns the property?
The city.
Cities have been very bought it.
And then he mentioned that in long term, they're hoping to kind of create another kind of larger development that would be more like Moon Ridge, as a way to create more low-income housing. But I do have the concern about location, because like our workers are all down in Pescadero, and a lot of them have housing in our area, and you know, kids in the local school and don't necessarily want to commute from Half Moon Bay. So I think there's probably not a lot of options down where we are, but it'd be great if there were some county supported off-farm housing that could happen closer to the south side of the county.
How many units is Moon Ridge?
160. But it's not all.
Right.
I do want to add that my name is Marisol Durani, by the way. I work at the Office of Supervisor Renewal. And thank you for all of your comments and concerns you're making. I just wanted to make sure that you understand that we do have housing as a really hot topic. We have been working with the county. You know, for those of you who didn't get the update on the last farm worker housing opportunity we saw, that was a farm worker housing grant that we applied for in partnership with the city of Half Moon Bay. So they've been really supportive in working with us in that. And as most of you have said, and Mr. Ward as well, Mr. Mueller is definitely looking into what spaces are available. So rest assured that that is something on our agenda and that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And then the other thing is that for those of you who have, you know, spotted the mountain lions, or you have property that you'd like to inquire about, that you stay engaged either with our office, that if you see Mr. Mueller, that you also approach him and ask him some questions, especially at the meetings when he attends. And he's very forthcoming about what, you know, what opportunities we can look for on your behalf. As you know, Pescadero is certainly something that is going to take a lot of navigating due to its geographical location. But I think it's just really keeping the conversation going and just, you know, exploring where we are and what hasn't worked and what we can look at to work So. It's part of it is remaining hopeful and engaged. Very engaged.
And are you talking about investor housing or the mountain line?
Well, I think all of it in general, right? So it's all a part of all of the issues. So it could be either the housing part for sure, but the mountain lion issue, I know my colleague is working on a lot of that, Kathleen. So, you know, we're visiting places and discussing with the community, a lot of the issues that are coming up. So just wanted to throw that out.
Approximately 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they were exploring putting farm labor housing in Pescadero where the transfer station is, and then it just fizzled out. There was a lot of town meetings, a lot of talk, and it just died. And then they were talking about, probably about 5-6 years ago, possibly put it at the Mushroom Farm, south of Pigeon Point Lighthouse. When Bill Cook was managing the lighthouse, and that kind of fizzled out as well. So there's been a lot of talk about areas for a long time in a lot of places that didn't happen. And yeah, housing is very important.
Totally understand that. I mean, I see the difference, right? Coming from a different county, I see the difference in this county. And it's a very specific location in which you find it close. But other than that, it's really, I can really tell you that we're exploring it. And I think that as long as we continue to be engaged, that's probably one of the most important things, communication. On another note, you know, we continue to express to the farmers that there's the disaster relief centers, which are really important. And I'm not sure if this is appropriate to discuss it at this time, but just wanted to remind everybody that the deadline is coming up March 16 for the SBA loan applications. And that needs to be contact FEMA for further information on that. So just wanted to keep that in mind.
Sorry, March
March 16.
16th, and that's Thursday.
Yeah, we're coming close.
There's one of the problems is on housing on the coast side. It's so hard to get housing, even when a house burns down. And there's a number of houses that when I grew up in Pescadero that burned down, never got rebuilt. And just because of the permit processing of it, it's very difficult.
And that is something that Mr. Mueller is in there, so we're continuing that conversation in our office. I mean, we're aware, meaning that we've heard it from more than one individual, several individuals, so we're learning to navigate that process as well, to see how, you know, what needs to be looked at.
The other thing too is farm labor housing is Post that acquired a lot of property. They took out a lot of farm labor housing, a ranch that we've farmed since 1952, south of Pigeon Point Lighthouse. We housed over 25 employees. And when they acquired the property, not only took away the water rights, the packing shed, and they took away the farm labor housing and employed 25 employees. So just a chair. So.
That is definitely.
And I
Follow up this one.
remember when who was running one at the time, Carrie LaBelle, and I shared it with her, and she went to Post to clean housing, keep housing was.
I think everybody acknowledges that housing is a great need. So
Yeah.
nobody is really that. But again, your stories are important and
And my stories are
engagement.
based on history, but.
Yeah, I mean, oral histories, right? Oral histories are extremely important. And again, engagement is very important with your supervisor. So. I
Yeah,
thank you
absolutely.
again.
If I may, that's something I just want to jump in and say, and Peter, I always appreciate the historical context you're able to give everything we do here, but I know Supervisor Mueller wanted to be here tonight and we stepped in for him, and I just want to say thank you to you and to his office for making the effort to be here tonight, and I think it's a really good sign for our collaboration moving forward and get to work with the new supervisor, so
Thank
thank
you.
you for coming out here tonight.
He did really want to be here, that's for sure. And then I believe also that we all recognize that current standards are different and, you know, that water and septic and, you know, our basic
public health and safety rules have to be followed too in creating new housing, so that is a challenge that it's not just throwing up some sticks, there's a lot of infrastructure that's needed so that our workers are at parity with with health and safety issues. So, you know, it isn't, that's why it's hard to do. I mean, because, you know, historically what people grew up with, but trying to do it under today's standards and it's not easy, but I know we're gonna get something out of this tragedy and hopefully get some more housing and for our folks out in the field. So thank you for being here.
Sure. It takes a lot of history, right, to understand where we are today, so
But
appreciate it.
adding to that, that was a moment. Yes, in one of the meetings of years ago, speaking of rules and regulations, and I feel. And it's some of the county's rules and regulations, I don't quite agree with, but even though they're there, it's like when John Forrest Ranch that he farms, they had to have a setback for drilling the well where he had water rights year round. And so if he drilled next to the creek, even if it came true that it was water from the creek, he says he had the water rights to support that, but the conflict was they can't one rule fits all from the county with the setback from the repairing corridor prohibited him from drilling the well, even though he had the water, state water rights to support that. So anyways, there's a lot of things like this that are from somebody to building the structure that they can, and they do have the water rights, and they do have the state law to back it up, but the county prohibits that. So that's one example. So just
That's the question.
Did you say?
I think you're talking about my place, right?
Yeah.
wrong word, sorry.
Yeah,
I won't
and
put the burden on
Right.
Mr.
yeah, and I think it's, thanks so much for being here. I think it's important to acknowledge that maybe in the past mistakes have been made and that we're, you know, hopefully we're all trying to work together. And I know that the planning department has a really important job, making sure we build structures that are safe for folks, but then hopefully there's movement with you guys, collaborating with them to help us try to get things moving along more quickly and maybe get housing more quickly so that we can get people taken care of as best we can. But anything
I have,
else? Yeah.
circling back to kind of your report from the Farm Worker Advisory Commission. I wanted to follow up on that and share from the Farm Worker Affairs Coalition, which I think we need to change our acronym because it's just a little too close. It's not get mixed up all the time. But I know last Friday we had our monthly meeting, and something that was expressed by some of the service providers who help a lot of the farm workers was a desire to, in terms of the upcoming, felt like housing inventory of, you know, the planned inspections of farms to look at housing. There was a general desire that there's more direct communication directly with the farm workers. And I'm not sure if this came up in the commission meeting as well.
Yeah, that was one of the public comments that we
Okay.
had, because that was something about like, oh, we'd love to, yeah, there was the desire expressed to communicate with farm workers directly, and someone from Puente said like, well, we're a resource for that. If
Yeah,
you
I have
want
the
to-
same.
If you want
message.
to, if you want to communicate with farm workers, we can help
Yeah.
set that up.
So I just wanted to kind of amplify that again, and I know Marisol, you received that message yesterday, so now it's getting to Supervisor Supervisor Mueller. Probably going to do that a few times, but I wanted to make sure I also bring up in this meeting as well, to make sure that all the other folks just kind of get that message of just making sure there's not just direct communication with farm workers, but like with everyone involved. And I think there was a concern that there might be some fear of the unknown of what is it, housing inspection? Am I going to be displaced? And so as much as we can get ahead of that message and make sure we're, you know, there's open lines of communication with the folks, with all folks involved. I think that was just wanted to make sure to amplify that message.
That message definitely got through. And so I feel like that was an important piece that came out of the meeting the other night. That was kind of being overlooked. So it got through. They're gonna stand up a website. I know that doesn't work for everybody. But at least that'll kind of help sort of get the message out. And also you know, it's a dynamic situation, so things are changing, and so that'll have the most up-to-date information on it. I don't believe it's up yet, though, so.
And just to add, I just want to piggyback on both your comments. Mr. Bueller did indicate that he doesn't want anyone to think that this is punitive, rather take this as, again, staying on top of, okay, what is it that we need and how can we go about making changes? So maybe looking into the opportunity rather than just, thinking that it's punitive, that you're just gonna get, that you're supposed to just get your wrist slapped or something like that. It's not meant for that. So he made that clear.
Yeah, there is.
I'm so sorry, I forgot to mention that we are having finally the return of Farm Day, which is March 31st, and it is a great event that is actually sponsored by the Half Moon Bay Chamber of Commerce, but it's a fantastic event at noon at the IDES Hall on Main Street, and fantastic food, but it really is to celebrate our farmers and our workers here in Half Moon Bay. And I know this will be a special one because we haven't had it, and with everything that's going on. So if you have a chance, it's a fabulous event. Please come.
Do you have a time frame?
It's on March 31st, Friday. It's a noon, it's a luncheon. Oh,
They
it's a
start
luncheon.
11:30 start.
Yeah.
And that's also
You can do it.
National
Chamber.
Farm Workers Awareness Day.
It's on the website?
I don't know if it's
Oh, I
actually
can do
awareness
that.
is the right word, but maybe it's
Appreciation.
appreciation.
I'll look that
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Hates it.
Yeah. I'm always, that's where I'm like.
gotta remind folks,
where
does this come
Right. You do.
Yeah.
Well, no, I have a couple of comments if we're. done with that. Okay, a few things from my office. We're working on fertile Cape weed. It's an A-rated weed. It's only location is in Pescadero, in the state of California. That's its only location. So we are working with private property owners to try to eradicate it. I've been promoting it as free eradication. That doesn't work for everybody because, some people don't want us on their property, number one, to survey for it, and number two, don't always want pesticides sprayed on their property. But that is the method in which that we're eradicating it. But if people want to, they can work with our office and we'll try to figure out a solution that works for them as well. But it is something that we're going to continue to work on. We do have faith that we can eradicate it. At this point, we're kind of holding the line though on some properties because we can't get on to all of them to get in there.
Do you feel like you know where it all is?
No.
Yeah.
And that's the key, right? We need to know where all of it is. And I think some people have been reluctant because of the eradication part, but it's like, we can't really stop this until we've found it. So and then we can talk solutions, like once we know where it's at. So we're continuing and it's been quite a rainy season, so it's hard to get out there. But it is growing and now's the time we have to get it before it sets seed, because once it sets seed, it just keeps spreading. So we're trying to get out there. So anyone in Pescadero, you can encourage people to let us on their property, we'd appreciate it. We sent out our 2022 crop reports and disaster reporting surveys. Like I said, it's not mandatory that you send it back. It just is greatly appreciated. It really helps us understand crop production in San Mateo County and the trends that we're seeing. And so if you could, send those back to us, we'd really appreciate it. We will call you up too and kind of harass you for some numbers. And lastly, Department of Pesticide Regulation just put out their sustainable pest management roadmap. And this is Department of Pesticide Regulations kind of view of trying to use less toxic materials. There was a comment period, I believe it's closed now, but I would definitely encourage, oh no, the comments are being taken till today. So if you last minute want to get on there and have a comment, I definitely would of course encourage you to do that. But their goal is basically to eliminate what they're calling priority pesticides, and they haven't completely defined what priority pesticides are. So it's still a work in progress, and this is kind of their goal for 2050. So moving forward, that's how they're gonna be their plan. And then kind of just some news from the county. The deadline is approaching to apply for FEMA. That's Thursday, March 16th. And the disaster recovery center that's at the San Mateo County Event Center is going to close tomorrow at 5 p.m. So if anyone's looking to go out there to get one-on-one support. Emergency disaster preparedness, know your zone. The county uses Zone Haven. And so it's important, I think, that you find your zone too. If you guys being out on the coast, are you guys familiar with Zone Haven? It was used quite a bit during the fires. So it kind of maps out the evacuation areas in the county. So I just actually was looking at it for the Pajaro flooding, and so they use Zone Haven too. So it's kind of it's not universal among counties application, but it's definitely being used more and more.
I think I was referring to it during the fire.
Yeah, we had it during the fire. And I know a couple other counties had it too. So it was kind of nice because of course disasters don't know county lines. So it really helps. And then just to make you guys all aware, SMC alert system. I don't know if people are signed up, but you should sign up. It's definitely helpful and to get the alerts. One thing that's confusing to me, I signed up many years ago when I worked here before. And so I don't get all of the alerts, and I don't quite know why. I figured I would have gotten all of the county, but I know I've heard sometimes that there's like been alerts in Pescadero, and someone will call me and say, oh, there was an alert sent out, and I didn't get it. So I'm like, so I don't know if there's a way on there you can kind of cater it to your own area if you don't want to get all of the alerts.
Yeah, I think you can. One thing, I know this is not the first time we've said it in this space, but when the power and cell service goes out in an emergency, you don't receive the alerts from the SMC alert system. So
Yeah.
we've had a lot of issues with that on the coast. So I am signed up, but I usually get all of the alerts when we get power back.
They all start.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's all I have. I tried to keep it to 5 minutes.
Well, you had multiple.
Yeah.
announcements.
Yeah.
If each one's less than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, what does the eradication plan look like for noxious weeds? Or is it herbicides specific?
It's
Okay.
herbicides. We were hand pulling
Okay.
to work with some of the people that didn't want pesticides.
Yeah.
We have found that is not working.
Mhm.
It's partly because of the seeds.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we have, like, there has been some roadside areas that we treated and it's gone.
Okay.
And so we feel really comfortable with that. I know it's not what everyone wants.
It's effective, though.
But it's effective, and it's hard because, I mean, once it's set seed, it just keeps going. And so one thing though is property owners, if we can do an MOU with property owners, if they want to like have a plan, we just need to come out and monitor it. That's part of, it's a regulated weed. And so basically we have to oversee an eradication of it. So if property owners want to do it themselves, it's just going to be a longer term. It's going to be a commitment on their behalf to get rid of it. And then we come out and help facilitate that.
Yeah, I was gonna
Certainly
ask it, I assume you have resources to help us identify it. I'm sure you haven't
Yes.
sent them to us, but
Yeah.
where would one
Um,
check to see like, oh, I'm not sure what this plant is. Can I
I mean, we could send out our biologists to come out, and maybe if you don't want that too, we also have on our website, we have some identification materials. So it's actually, there's a plant that is the non-fertile. There's non-fertile capeweed that's actually in the landscape industry. So this one is just fertile, so it spreads.
Okay, so what happens if you send out your biologist, like, for example, to my place, and I'm certified organic, and you
And you
identify
don't,
it,
yeah.
so what happens?
So we're currently, this is our first time that we're doing it. We're actually working with a property owner and operator who is going organic. And so we're doing an MOU. And so they're working to like eradicate it themselves. And so it's just basically, we're gonna be coming back out, and it's just gonna take longer
Mhm.
to get rid of it.
So it's on the owner.
It's on
to
the
eradicate
owner,
it if
really,
you aren't
yeah.
willing to
At the end of the day,
use
it's really
herbicides, then there's
on
no-
the.
So the
it's
only
on the owner.
assistance the county can give is.
At this point, that's the assistance that we're giving, besides surveying, monitoring, identifying it, and then just kind of working with the property owner to make sure that it gets eradicated or managed at the best ability that it can be. I mean,
That's why I asked for certified organic, and I'm not really familiar with that plant per se, but there's like backpack propane burners and stuff like
Mhm.
that for organic weed control.
And
could
that
be a
might
county
be
option. Not like we need people running around with flamethrowers, but it's a possibility.
yeah, so right now, a lot of, we're contracting
Mhm.
with a company
Okay.
to do the actual pest control work. And so we just don't have that option yet.
Sure.
And, once that were to become, if that's something somebody wants to invest in, we're for it. And that would inform us as well, like looking at methods.
Cool.
So again, we're willing to work. We want to know where it's at. We can't take care of it and stop it from spreading if we don't know where it's at. So. that's an objective.
But they're not using any priority herbicides, are they?
Well, we don't know what those are yet.
I'm really interested in that list. Is that on the DPR website?
They haven't quite qualified what that is yet. I mean, it's probably like restricted, I'm sure it'll be restricted materials, fumigants,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. That's typically their go-to.
Right. I remember
But it's not, they don't have it yet.
for sure. Okay. Yeah, dating back to early work in strawberry industry, they're really engaging that industry to farm without fumigants, right? And so I think this is the driver of that scenario. So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
How to be able to do that, manage strawberries without fumigation.
Any other committee members with news or concerns? I know we kind of mixed in a little bit of the public there, but I think that's okay. All right, we got the secretary position. Committee nomination for committee secretary position. Item number 5.
Yeah, so on this one, I'm sure Summer could say the same thing, but as we know, our previous conservationist member, Fred Crowder, had been appointed to secretary, or nominated to secretary, and unfortunately had to resign last month. Wish him all the best and miss his participation. So I think this is because we need to, someone else gets to pick the short straw and take over the secretary role. So currently there aren't a ton of us. Yeah, everyone is here but Natalie. And I know I think Natalie has not expressed that she doesn't have the bandwidth to do that, even if she was here. Not to misrepresent her, Peter, you can correct me if I'm wrong there.
The way I understand, she's not interested in second.
Yeah. So, I know in the last time this conversation came up, I encouraged folks who are not in a farmer position to maybe step up. And I think, Jonathan, you're the only one at this point. And you volunteered to help with the tech support, so I'm just wondering how much we can stretch that volunteer support.
While I'm not holding a grower position, I am indeed a
Yes,
grower professionally
exactly.
and
I
find
agree.
myself pretty inundated from day to day. That being said, that could change in a few months, but I don't think I can accept that at this point.
It used to be done by county council before Lauren new volunteered.
Well, actually, it was.
Was it county
it's been a
staff?
month ago, 'cause when I stepped into the role a couple of years ago, it had been vacant for a very, very long time. Someone told me that previously in like the 90s or something, someone in the committee had been filling that role. I think the planning liaison had stepped in to just make sure the minutes were getting done, but you know, that's. I think, and Summer, jump in and correct me if I'm wrong here. Basically, I think there was a move to have all county committees generally follow the same self-management rules, and previously the county had been doing the secretary stuff, but in order to get us in alignment with how all other county committees are run, that is really the responsibility of the committee to take on. So I can serve, I have volunteered to, as long as I'm living in the county and can serve on this committee, I will continue to do the secretary roles, but it's likely like only a couple meetings left that I'll be able to do that. So at this point, no one else on the committee is in a position to make that commitment. So we're kind of stuck. Whether, but we're also 4 members down. So
Yeah.
Summer, maybe you can give us an update on how the recruiting is going and if we're gonna get some backup for this problem soon.
Yeah, hopefully. So the recruitment, they extended it again to March 17th, which I think would be end of this week or next week, end of this week. And I believe a couple of applications have been received per the previous extension, and I think they're looking to see if they can rile up any more. So hopefully we'll have a few positions filled coming up very soon. And Lauren, I know that unfortunately you won't be able to stay with us forever, but if you know, perhaps with some perhaps there's a period, you know, some transition where we can get some new, if we can get some new members in pretty soon and before you need to depart from the committee, that perhaps some new members may be interested in taking that role over. And I think possibly in the meantime, if there is a gap between that period that you may need to depart and having new members on board that might be interested, that we'll just need to figure out another way, whether I think before planning staff liaison was doing it. And then my understanding was partly to get an alignment with other committees, but also as to why there's a secretary now that takes those minutes, but also I think my understanding was at some point in the past, the Ag Advisory Committee desired to take that role over to have more management or control. I don't know, maybe that's totally incorrect. That was my understanding. But so yeah, I think that if
And the
there are
question
no
would-
takers,
I just be, I mean, because I did not get
You're-
nominated to the secretary again because I was not renewing my term. Should
Right.
I, be filling the role currently as long as possible, should I just get nominated to the secretary and then we'll kick the can down the road and you guys can figure it out when I'm gone?
yeah, I mean, I think that if everyone's in agreement to have you continue, I think that's fine. I think it was kind of just closing the loop on it because it was going to be Fred and then he unfortunately had to depart. So just closing the loop on who that is and if you are still willing to assume that role.
Are minutes required?
They are per the bylaws.
Okay.
Yes.
And then this recording, where does that go?
It gets posted online.
Really?
So it gets
Okay.
posted to the county. The county has a YouTube site, website that all recorded public meetings, planning commission, board of supervisors, all other commissions and so forth with the county gets posted there. So these are posted there on YouTube, and then I go back and link them to the actual AAC meeting date website as well for that particular meeting date. So it links to the YouTube site. So they're in both locations for access.
Thoughts? So I think my mind might be going where your mind is going. Can the recording stand in lieu of the minutes now that that's available?
Well, we can, I can check with council, and we are also still working on amendments to the bylaws, and trying to get that to you next month. So I can check in with council, and it might be something with some other changes that are being proposed for you guys, for your guys' review. That be one of them.
Yeah, why can't CP chat through our minute?
Yeah, exactly. Because yeah, I'm thinking, you know, when I started, we weren't even consistently recording the meetings in person. So like the minutes were
Oh.
really a vital public record for what
Mm,
this meeting was. And that was, and the recordings were not circulated or posted publicly. So it was our only public record of the meeting. So now that we are recording every meeting and posting it online, maybe that will serve serve that purpose, that function, and could alleviate some of the duties of the secretary role. And then it can just be more focused on supporting the chair and running the meetings and setting the agendas.
mhm. Yeah, and if we do need to have meetings, perhaps we can figure out a way to make them very abbreviated, given we've got the whole recording. And maybe it's just recording any actions or something like that.
Okay,
So, yeah, I'll check into that.
thank you, appreciate it. So I think I still need to. Okay.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Peter, seconded by James. Want to have me keep doing this. Watch out, I'm gonna be doing minutes for someone down there in a couple months anyway. Do we need to, I can't remember if this is one we voted on or if this was just nominated. I think we had to vote on chair and vice chair.
I think it can just be a nomination. I mean, if you want to do a all yays, all nays kind of thing as a group, that's
Right.
fine, but
Put it in the
I
minutes.
don't think it has to be voted on.
Okay, we have a motion by Peter, seconded by James. Have me continue in the secretary role. James,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
and did I miss anyone? No, I just can't. Peter, okay, and then I'll abstain. One, two, three, four, five, six. Okay, passes. Lucky me. Although it's like, I am way behind on getting you guys the minutes, so you know. So I have the notes for all of them, and many of them are half done, and you'll get most of them next month, right? It'll be, I keep saying it's next month. It'll definitely be the next one.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For your service. Yeah.
Absolutely.
My pleasure. Yeah. Well, it's really, and I know I've said this before, but like my entire job is doing paperwork for farmers basically and operators. So it's a natural extension of what I do in my actual work life. So happy to contribute with the ways that I can.
Thank you, Lauren. So on to item number 6, Community Development Director's Report.
Yes, thank you. So for this past month from February 3rd to March 2nd. There were no new PAD permit applications received. There were no PAD permit applications that were heard by either the Board of Supervisors or the Planning Commission. And there was one rural CDX application that was submitted during this time and has been approved. That was in the attachment to the director's report. It's for a mobile laundry facility for farm workers at 350 Butte Cutoff in Pescadero. So that was approved this past month. And no other projects to report on, just additional announcements. I mentioned previously the current Ag Advisory Committee vacancies, the extended application deadline is this Friday. And then that our department is still working on pursuing options for April to be a hybrid meeting with for the members of the public to participate optionally as a call-in hybrid. And one item not on the director's report, but just a heads up, I received today that we'll have a new ag ombudsman that will be attending the April meeting. So Adria Arco has moved on from the position, still with RCD, but moved on from the ag ombudsman position. And so the new ag ombudsman is Eliza Milio, I believe. And so she unfortunately was unable to attend tonight's meeting, but is excited to attend and meet everyone at the April meeting. So look forward to that.
Looking forward to meeting Eliza. Just quick question, is that still a part-time position? And I know there's been just some discussion that maybe supporting or pushing that to become a full-time position.
The ag ombudsman position, I believe it is still part-time, I think.
Okay.
So.
Is it?
Well, currently, San Mateo County pays for a portion of that position. But their ag ombudsman, that's not the title, I forget, it's like.
Oh, it's a ag steward
Yeah, ag
um,
steward.
is
and
the
so
actual, yeah.
We contract with them and we pay for a portion of that position. So it's not.
Yeah,
fully-
it's technically ag stewardship program manager. And I think, like Corin said, they take on the role as ag ombudsman for us.
And if the county funds a portion of that, does RCD or someone else fund, although RCD is also county, I get that, but yeah, well,
They're
they're county
actually-
commission, okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
Does RCD fund the other part of that partial position?
Through other means.
Okay, through grants and things,
Grants and-
okay.
Yeah. That ag steward position, but the ombudsman portion of it, the work that they do, they're kind of being the liaison between planning and the ag community and whatever other ag issues come up is funded through this contract. And to be completely transparent, my department administers the contract.
Thanks for clarifying.
And then does the RCD provide additional funding to make that position full-time, but their role with as an ombudsman is only part-time with the county? Like the funding from the county only.
Yeah, so they'll
create
work
that.
on other programs
Yeah.
where they can apply for grants and, yeah,
Right.
I don't know exactly how they fund the full
Right.
position.
So it could be that Adria had a full-time position,
Yeah.
full-time, but only part of
Yeah,
her
that
role
makes sense.
was as
Yeah, exactly.
ombudsman.
Yeah.
Okay, we ready for the regular agenda?
Yeah, it's number 7. think.
Okay, yeah.
You sometimes.
Yes,
read
I
these
do. I was
ones.
gonna say, if you're ready for it. Okay, let me read this into the record. Regular agenda, item number 7. Owner James Baker, applicant James Thompson. File number PLN 2016-00515. Location 900 Seaside School Road in San Gregorio. And assessor's parcel number 081240060. This is for consideration of a coastal development permit, planned agricultural district permit, and grading permit to construct a replacement single-family residence, fire turnaround, new septic system, and a domestic well on a 43.21 acre parcel. There is no tree removal and 345 cubic yards of grading proposed. The CDP is appealable to the California Coastal Commission. Please direct questions to Olivia Boo, Planner 3 at oboo@smcgov.org. And related action request is that the AAC provide a recommendation to the Planning Commission on the proposed project. Do we have a presentation from the applicant perhaps?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet, then answer your questions, but, actually, Summer, if you.
I can share plans. Give me
Plan
1
A2.
minute.
Can you show Plan A2? Kind of the,
Yeah.
maybe it'll touch on some of your issues with the CDP Coastal Act about replacement structure.
A2, did you say?
A2.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This
Can
one?
you blow that up? Yeah, okay, you can see when we started this project, this is a replacement project. We were very careful in citing. Originally, there was a farmhouse. Oh, my laser's not working. Oh, there it is.
I think was it
Doesn't really work on the screen, but here, I'll just
here?
show you. There was originally a structure.
I think Summer's doing it for you.
No, that's the Octagon House, Summer.
So
Yes, that right there. There was a farmhouse that was here, an existing farmhouse, and it caught fire. So we pulled the aerials back in 2004. That was prior to the fire. And then when the fire caught, you can see it wrecked the structure. And now, unfortunately, there was a couple of fatalities and stuff. And so what we did was under the Coastal Act, we made the footprint within 10% of the square footage of the footprint of the original structure. Unfortunately, the square footage of the entire structure did not meet into the Coastal Act. So under the Coastal Act section here, if you can blow that right corner up, there you go. And then move down. In the CDP permit section of the county, it talks about the Coastal Act section. It's a categorical exemption can be if you build the same structure in the same spot within 10%, you can do a 10% increase. You can skip the whole process and go right back to building if you comply with all these rules. So what we did was you can see our red, that was a conformance to that. But the home that we were trying to do is basically a 2-story structure with a basement. So our square footage was much greater than that. So we didn't comply with the total 10%. Although in this area, this is exactly the same spot where the original structure was to minimize the impacts for ag and everything. This was previously disturbed. There was a septic system already there and the whole bit. So we were trying to, all the grading and everything is going to be in this area and the whole project. So that we wanted to do that specifically. It even came down to the point of the rotation of the building. So we talked to the planning department. It was Melissa Ross. And we rotated the building so that the roof structure would be more apt for solar. So in the future, we can put solar on the roof and it would work better. So, and we got like a 50% increase in the solar. in that. So here's a structure right here. The septic field is in this location right there, right below the house. Everything works as gravity. And this was previously like all disturbed here. This is a current turnaround. Now, when I was looking at the previous assessor's report, we pulled the assessor's report there, and then we have some old pictures. There was a barn here and some other structures here, which created the grading for that, created this pond. That's, and it's not, this is man-made because the current like valley of the structure, you know, the valley of the area runs through here, and it's about 9%. And then this is flat. This is totally flat, and it cuts off this, and it creates that pond. This pond is actually used to irrigate this area over here for the cows to graze. So, you know, and an unirrigated area won't support as many cows as an irrigated area. This is and then the water is pumped down or flows by gravity by pipe to this existing pool. And then it's fed off the irrigation system as well. And then we plan on putting a small fire hydrant here and here so that we can fight fires, because it'll take, you know, the fire department, you know, quite a while to come. So there's about 20,000 gallons of storage right here. And then right here, there's probably about 80,000 gallons of storage, just as my order of magnitude. And then up here, we have 4,000 or 5,000 gallon tanks that are existing. So about 20,000 gallons, almost too much water, but it's better to have more, because there's a spring, there's an existing spring box. It was probably built in the 20s, because that was the water supply for the development, and, you know, for the old farm. And this, you know, pond was probably created back then as well, because the ponds were always, you know, used for watering the, you know, cows and goats and whatever, you know, on the farm, you know, instead of water tanks, you know, everyone used ponds, but way back when. You see this?
C10 show the water supplies design we have right now.
Yeah, we, Summer, the water supply plan, it's, I believe it's C10. So we've gone through an extensive review of, you know, all the codes and requirements, because there's a lot. I mean, we got to meet the current standards for water supply, the current health standards for water systems. So all of that. So we put in an application to drill a well. Originally, we were using this, which was where the spring box was. But unfortunately with the spring box, although during the winter, we have a lot of water. We have, in fact, the whole site has a tremendous amount of water. But the spring box doesn't produce 1.5 gallons of water during the dry season, or 2.5 gallons a minute during the wet season, which is required for the flow rate for domestic flow. So with that, we're going to drill a well, and we picked 3 sites. So one of the sites is where the spring box is. Another site is over here. And the most preferred site is actually to the east, a little bit southeast. And no, go to the right, Summer. No, the other way. Keep going. So the well right here. This actually has the largest aquifer. So it'll need a casing drill about 90 feet deep. And you know, the well seal needs to be 50 feet, a well seal for the casing. And there is a huge amount of water in this location. And then from here, actually, we have grade working in our favor. So a 2-inch line going to the tanks right here will flow by gravity. So the well, we only have to lift the well to the surface, the water, and then it'll flow by gravity to the tanks. And we're also proposing maybe to put solar in that area, as well as a telemetry. So power and telemetry will go to the well. So when the tanks drain down, either by float, a simple float, they've been using those forever, or it could be an ultrasonic transducer, which is it bounces a wave off the water. And it'll, it'll tell the system when to turn on and turn. And so the idea is to set the levels in the 4 tanks all together. So during the wet season, we reduce the tank levels down to 10,000 gallons. So you don't need that much water because you don't need to irrigate as much. And you got water coming out all over the place. But during the dry season, then we raise the tank level up to 20,000 gallons. And you always have the fire flow. You always have the domestic. And then you always have the ag irrigation at the same time. So, like I said, the house is here. It's a 2-story farmhouse that we designed. It's got a nice porch wrapped around and stuff. And then the view is to the north here, actually, and to the west. The master bedroom looks out this way. And what we were very careful with is this whole area was already previously disturbed. So the prime ag land is in this area where the cows are, and it's fenced off. You can see the fences here and here. We surveyed the entire property. In fact, we found a very neat point right here. It was set by the U.S. Surveyor General in about 1850. It's on one of the original Rancho maps. It's actually so old it's delaminating. So it was cold rolled steel or iron, and very, very, very old. So a number of maps in this location, I would say marginally agree, going back to 1850. But it's always it's kind of like a puzzle you unravel. A lot of fun. So anyway, and then with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, you said that the sanitary seal was gonna be 50 feet, because it's mandatory. When did that change? Because of 3 years ago, it was 20 feet sanitary seal, but the county would like 50.
No, it's actually a state regulation. I think it was 2005. It changed. There was a number of changes in 2000. I used to run a water company. I was city engineer and director of public works in Brisbane. And I ran 2 water companies. So in 2005, you had the lead and copper rule. And also, they also made you get rid of your wooden water tanks if you had more than 30 connections, I believe, on your system. You couldn't have a wooden water tank. And then my brother owned Troutmere for a long time. So I helped him get recertified for the state, for the Redwood Estates, because the well was actually on my brother's property.
Just 3 years ago, when we were at 3 or 4 years ago, when we were at a different meeting, and this is when I mentioned it, and Audrey from the ag budsman looked it up, and she said I was correct. That's why I was asked when it changed, but you said it changed in 2005, but she looked it up.
Yeah,
4 years ago, excuse me, when it finished. And the sanitary seal, after I mentioned, was 20 feet, but the county would like 50. And she looked it up and she said I was correct. And it was as little as like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, the county ordinance still says 20.
Okay, that's what I said.
Yes.
Like 50.
But the state actually, Department of Water Resources, they set the, health and safety rules. So, you just gotta I have a comment record from the county, from environmental health that says, the well seal needs to be 20 feet. And okay, it's fine.
Thank you for your presentation. This is a PAD parcel. It's over 40 acres. I think we'd all like to see your agricultural land management plan that's required for a parcel of this size? Is that, because I can't see it in your presentation materials?
Yeah, as far as I know, there's a lease agreement for pasture grazing. But other than that, I'm not aware of anything else.
Yeah, I was just wondering that. On the parcel, because it said here it's not 75% of it grazed. Is it 100% grazable that can be grazed?
It can, yes,
No, what my question is.
except for the driveway.
Being used, I'd
Yes,
say at least 35 acres.
okay, 35 is being used for grazing.
Yes.
Okay, because in here it says 27.75.
Yeah, the prime, I was estimating, it's really this area over here. I left out some of this area when I did the area takeoff.
Because that's important, because in the report that I was reading, it says that it's not in compliance with the minimum criteria of the acreage.
Yeah, I saw
But
that.
Jim was saying that, then you just verified that you left some out. You're shooting yourself in the foot, because to be in compliance, you need about 5 more acres. And if you left out 5 acres, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
I only saw the staff report, a few days ago, so, and I called and told them,
Regardless of staff report.
I told them
is
that
how many acres is actually in grazing rather than what it's saying?
at least 40, over 40.
The parcel's only 42.
Yeah,
Yeah, the whole.
the whole parcel can be grazed. The only part that isn't being grazed or can't be is the driveway.
No, I know that, taking all that out and taking account of that. What is currently being grazed today? How many acres?
Oh,
You'd have to do
Do
the
you know
math
how
on
many
it.
acres, Jim?
Yeah, it's technically the whole thing can be grazed, except this gets a little bit steep. They can graze, there's section up so you can rotate the cattle. So, first pasture, second pasture, third is just like, you can irrigate this too.
Yeah.
And then, this pasture up here is total, this whole pasture here, including this upper top, which is overgrown right now, which
Is being grazed too.
is being grazed.
With all those pastures that are currently being grazed, how many acres is it?
You'd have to do the math on that.
I could do the.
I would say at least 35.
Yeah, or
The
it's
reason
more than
why-
35.
reason why I'm asking because here the report says only 27, but if it's like Jim saying, at least 35, and then you're over 75% of your parcel, and you're in compliance where this says you're not in compliance. And this is why I'd like to know, because then if you're in compliance, great. That. So.
But also, what is the commercial nature of your agriculture?
Yeah.
And so how many do you bring to the market every year?
We're pretty new to this, so.
Yeah, but that's the problem. To be compliant, you have to have a record of a commercial, and that's the purpose of the Williamson Act benefit. And we have worked really hard with our regulations to ensure that it's commercial. It's not just a hobby farm.
So the last one, I just took, Montana took a cow in for me maybe 3 weeks ago.
Is it your operation or is it Robbie Peters?
I have a commercial,
Yeah, Bobby?
I have Robbie Peters, but there's little seat.
Oh, so you have a
But-
commercial cattleman.
Yes, and then we have, I just recently had Vince help me out with taking the bull one.
Okay,
You need to do a better write-up about the nature of your, just so because, this is just from the point of view of, because it's not just PAD, your ordinance, that's agriculture, but you're under Williamson Act contract, and so you have a higher obligation to foster and have agriculture on the land in order to qualify for your tax, benefit. And so I think that's why, the questions are really, we want to see you succeed and have a nice home and everything, and people like this, especially rescuing something like this that had some bad times with the fire, but, I think it's just that fair treatment of all of especially with the county being under an audit, and that these things have to comply with, the requirements. So I think that's why, we're just trying to see the nature of the application, and hopefully, you know, before you go to the planning commission, you might have some more information on.
I can do that.
Yeah, what's really would be really important was to capture the true acreage of the grazing, because like you said, to be in compliance with the wind stack with grazing to be
Right.
75%. And if you're doing about 35, which 32.
Yeah, 35 acres would be
32.3.
like 80%.
Right, because 32.
But I think it's even north of that.
I think
And
it is too.
then that way there, you guys will have a better argument. For it, especially the compliance with wind stack. And it's plus is if the person that you have the cows on there can write something up. The cow calf over and stuff. But anyways, the other thing too is, I live near this property and the Garbinis that own it since 1973, and that they had it because of the winters and that stuff. And I can say that Jim did bring back the grazing quite a bit. It was overgrown and cleared the brush and brought back as much of the grazing land that he could do and all that there. And when the Garbinis lived on the place where the house was previously, like you were saying, that burnt down. And I remember when the fire happened and all that there. So this parcel always had an existing house, like you said before. And they tried to put it in the same area, so not trying to change the ag at all. And which is good and all that there. So just to get a little bit of history, I just moved it to we acquired our property just 2 parcels over in 1977. So I'm pretty familiar with our property. And like you said, in the spring, used to satisfy the house that lived there before all the time. Right. So.
Yeah, but
The water's really good.
if we're, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but if it is fenced and it is being actively grazed by a professional operation, then it sounds like you guys might be in compliance with the Williamson Act, but it isn't really explicitly laid out in your report.
Well, this was 2016 as well.
I was wondering that,
Yeah.
'cause yeah, the
this is
number. was
2016, and we
okay.
probably opened up another 8 acres up on the top that's fenced and now there's more than just poison oak for the cows to eat. So.
Yeah.
And then
Walked it.
I mean,
A
it's,
lot of poison oak.
Yeah,
Up on those slopes, I bet, yeah.
I walked the fence line, actually, I surveyed, I got a lot of photos, but I walked that whole fence line up the side of that hill before I had my accident.
Make a comment, again, Marisol Durani for that if the applicant, I'm not sure what your plans are, but I'm here today to speak in support of Mr. Baker, if he's been made to comply and asking for this applicant to be provided with a certainty process. And that if he's going to come back to another meeting, again, I will state that he be provided with certainty process.
I think there's other members that still are weighing in.
Oh, sorry, was this not comment time?
No, it's, I mean, it's always.
Yeah.
You always can jump in.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, sorry, okay.
No, no,
I
no.
just thought it was informal.
This-
Yeah.
this-
Yes,
this was made for the county to get something in writing on them to stay in
Yeah.
compliance. So when this property was purchased, there was cattle on it. There were Coriani cows or whatever they were doing with the cows. So I came in and asked Robbie Peters to help me because this is what I just unfolded here. And he did. So, between removing cars that were in these bushes or what, on and on, and just clean up. We finally got it to,
And the
You know.
structures were a mess, everything was a mess.
I mean, it was just a dump. So now, we put this in to get it going. I mean, I don't know, the fences weren't that great, so we buy it with alpha. So then we, fence 6,000 feet and we clean up the one side, so the cows are going over to Peter's house eating his beans and he's yelling at me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been a work in progress, but it's legitimate cow calf operation. I'm not a, Yellowstone Dutton, but we're learning.
Not yet.
We're learning. It's never not had cows on it since we've owned it.
I had a kind of follow-up question to this conversation, which I think will speak to what Marisol was just sharing about. So, and I think this all kind of ties together. We got a third question in our framing report than we normally do, which is based on the Williamson Act determination of compatibility calculation criteria. The AAC issues or does not issue a determination of compatibility. And I just wanted to clarify because I've never seen that. Oh my gosh, Summer, how long have you had your hand up there? You gotta speak up. But let's circle back to you later. Is that relating to this conversation we're having now where we would be requested to issue a waiver or something? Like, I just haven't seen that question before, so I want to understand what's asked of us as a committee in this hearing process and to make sure we address things in a timely manner.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so thanks for asking the question, Lauren. So yeah, that was one of the questions from the staff report was because it did not appear that they were in compliance with the contract. It was getting a determination. So with regards to the percentage of the parcel that is required to be grazed, 75%. In ag production, that on existing contracts like this was contracted back in the 70s originally. So on existing contracts, they can be granted an exception with the determination from both the Ag Advisory Committee and I believe the Ag Commissioner that the land is considered to be highly productive. Despite not meeting that 75% criteria. And so that was a question that we are throwing to the committee that to get feedback and kind of collect information on if the committee feels that this parcel, even if it is not in compliance with that 75% threshold, whether the committee feels that this parcel is a highly productive site for that determination. And I do also just want to, my hand was raised, just going kind of circling back to the conversation regarding the actual land area that's used for grazing. If it is just from a very rough delineation on our GIS, conservatively speaking, if it is just extracting out the developed area portion, that's probably conservatively, it's probably even a little less, but about 3 acres. It's probably a little less because I wasn't carving in and out of areas, but that kind of area, which I'll show again, just if it's of any help. That is basically this area here. If you were just gonna kind of carve this whole area out, it's about 3 acres. So, and there might be areas in here, like I said, I didn't carve, in and out of every nook and cranny, but.
Thank you for that, Summer. So my follow-up question is a two-part. One, when was this report originally drafted? Was it's dated 2023, but is it with 2016 numbers?
It's based on the 20.
Sorry, the planner report that comes as a cover to all of your materials that you submit. That's where, yeah, that's what I meant.
So the staff report and the 27 acres was based off of the areas that are cited as cited on the plans, an 11-acre area and a 16-acre area, which is shown on that plan we were just looking at. So I believe that's where the 27 acres came from, was what was showing on the plan. If there's more areas, then
not subprime, and that was really the prime grazing. But the other area, and I clarified in an email following when I got the staff report, we can graze, they can graze everywhere, but except for the developed area. But that was the really good, where they rotate the cattle and stuff like that.
Yeah, but Jim, you said that you opened, you also, there's an 8 acre parcel. As well, and so if you add another 8 to the 27, that's over 32, like 34, and so. What I'm hearing, I could be wrong, is this report is not accurately correct to what is taking place and what is being currently grazed. Because if I go back to what I said before, if you currently graze more than 75%, you're in compliance. That's correct. And so, and it's back to just fresh, my question that we don't have to go as far as passing it on an exemption or anything if it's currently grazed more than 75%. And if the report's wrong, well, let's fix the report right now and see if it is more than 75%. If it is, and then, well, we have it more than 75%. Because based upon what Jim said earlier, that is also an additional 8 acres that didn't get on the report.
Yeah, that's exactly where my mind was going to, Peter, which is that
Yeah,
there isn't a compliance issue, there's just a reporting issue.
that's right.
Carrie?
I just wanted, just to remind the committee that, you have in the past made that finding number 3 on the Williamson Act compatibility. Finding that we did the erratic pumpkin farm. It might have turned out a little differently than this application, but, yes, that finding has been made before. For applications that are under Williamson Act.
Right. And I know what you're saying, Carrie, and I agree, but I don't think we need to go there if we have the acreage.
I'm just saying that she asked whether.
Yeah, I just asked.
But in general, I'm saying it is utilized for when.
Sure. But
I'm not prejudging.
Thanks for the.
I would rather, if there's enough to be in compliance, I'd rather go on that merit versus.
Definitely. I was just
Yeah.
curious on the content of the question.
No, I know.
Pumpkins and cows.
Literally.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, if we felt that the report needed to be updated to reflect the accuracy of the operations, would that, so process wise, coming back to what Marisol brought up, what would that mean from a process standpoint, Summer, in terms of, does the report need to be revised and this comes back on the next agenda for us to be able to do it, or what's the process there?
It would, in that instance, it would be up to the committee whether they felt comfortable based on the evidence that was, discussed here tonight, to determine that it was inaccuracy in the staff report. It's been put on the record as to what it is, in actuality. So that's an option, in order to, for the committee to provide a recommendation on the project.
Yeah, like I was saying, and Summer also said, the developed area is roughly 3 acres. That, taking the 3 acres out of the 43, leaves 40, that was kind of what my gut was telling me. I am very sure that we're greater than 35. We're taking out some of the very steep slopes and some of the area where there's all kinds of broom, and stuff like that, but that can be eradicated too. I mean, we have goats there too, so, they almost eat anything.
Could you bring back up the map that you showed earlier when you showed the 2 parts, the 11 and the 17 and the 8 acres? So
Yes.
So we can identify more than 32 acres.
Yeah, that, yeah.
Can you see that?
The 3 parcels that are currently grazed right now.
There's 4 now. This was overgrown. This is an old aerial. This is another section that was, now it's all and fenced too.
Right.
Okay, so what is, show us the
First pasture.
pieces that are currently grazed in the acreage.
Yes, this is a pasture. You can separate pasture 1, 2.
Now that one, that first one there, is that the 11 or 17 acre?
That's 19.
I think it says 16.65.
Yes. Right, 16.
And then the next
0.65.
one,
And then the next one, I don't know how you guys have it.
I have to break out
This
the-
is number 2, how we're using it for cows. This is number 2.
and is that 11 acres or?
It's saying it's, oh no.
Yeah.
Is it this one?
Yeah, I think
11.
that area is, should be moved over to the left.
And then the third one is the 8 acres, Jim?
Yeah.
Well, there's this up top here is fenced
Yeah.
and this part of this pasture. So, you know, this is 3, you can gate them and you can keep turning the cows over.
Okay, now is that the 8 acre one that you said?
I'm just guessing how big that, what's
Yeah,
that top of that ridge? It's
I think
flat.
it's more, actually, it's more like about 10 or 12.
Is that this area? I can't see you.
No,
guys'
it's the
weird
one all the way
images,
to the
sorry.
Go to the top or above the road.
Where it appears to be overgrown.
To the left, Summer.
The
No,
track.
no, that's-
Over in here.
Well, that was-
You're right there, left.
you're to the right, excuse me. To the right.
Over in
Yeah,
this
yeah,
area.
Yeah, that was grown and now it's being grazed.
Okay,
That's planned.
Mm.
Okay.
so you as well know the fields and the acreage, correct?
Right.
Okay, could you add up all the fields that are currently being grazed? And it doesn't matter if they're rotated, and they're still grazed, fenced in grazed, to see if we got more than 32 acres.
Well, I don't have the CAD files, but I and the numbers at hand.
I can put it on the back right now, PDF. Let them know.
You can. One,
I mean, technically, it's, you exclude the pond and the house.
This.
How's like the water?
That's good.
Huh?
How's like the water?
Let's see if-
Yeah,
that
no.
was
That's
built.
Yeah.
Does it function as a stock pond?
It does.
But they have-
For, yeah, for irrigation or for, the water trust, for all the animals. There's goats
I
too.
think the house looks very much like a farmhouse. I mean, I like the.
If you want to see how the new house is going to look, Summer, could you go to sheet number
it's A2 or A3.
A3, where is the elevation view?
A7.
Yeah, A3,
A7.
A7, please.
A7, A7.
I wrote this, I'm going that, you did good work and everything, so I know what I'm talking.
Yeah, let's see.
A7,
And A7 is in front of the house.
yeah, A7 in the front.
I don't see
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Back up.
back, yeah, that's at the. bottom.
I don't,
Back.
I don't
Missing an
see an A7.
Has A5 and A8. But we're missing 6
Oh,
and 7.
here, I can show you here.
No, you don't have that because they have some copper sheet, they don't have the old set, so I can.
I'll do it for you.
Calculate.
The acreage is more important than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was saying it looked like.
I don't have that.
It is.
That's all I was saying.
I don't even know if they have it here.
How many people lived in the old house?
It was a family. There were
Family of
2
4.
children, yeah. I think a husband and wife and 2 children that passed away.
John, you can also, I mean, here's the idea, just to prove it with the proof that they can show the needed acreage for.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I would
Do
feel-
a good job tomorrow, you know.
And then your approval is
Are you
based on
doing
that.
it?
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I think.
Yeah, I think that.
So if you can see, oh darn, it just
I saw it.
disappeared. But if you can see, when I measure this, not on this, but on, if I measure this area, and again,
That's close enough.
probably not exact, but close enough. That's about, overall, that area is about 4 acres.
So that takes out, that's 39.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. My gut was telling me 40. Just because I know the areas.
And it's a
Yeah.
43 acres, so that's 39 acres, plus or minus,
Yeah.
but 39. If everything else is capable of grazing.
It's being grazed.
And the 75% is roughly. what-
Would only be, I think, 32.
30.
Yeah. it's-
The 75% threshold. Sorry.
Yeah, it's 32 acres. The
Yeah.
75%
And
threshold
that-
is 32
and we
acres.
do, You know, 6 acres of buffer.
I have a feeling we're missing a measurement. If I may, this is like clearly defined for this area. And this one's clearly defined for this area, and there's nothing in the center. So I have a strong feeling we're just missing that.
Yeah,
acreage number
well,
in
the
the
11,
center.
the 11 acres should be actually moved over to the left. You know, And,
Yeah.
and then that 8 or
Just the
9 acre,
design.
yeah. That happens in AutoCAD.
So how does the committee feel in terms of this discussion and clarification and a more specific number of what's actually being raised? Do we need further documentation or is this conversation sufficient?
Because they feel strongly, this is just my opinion, that they have over 75% that is fenced and grazed. We can pass it with the
With the caveat that they provide that documentation later.
yes. So that won't hold them up and they can come next month just to show that they have it.
Or even
So
put
we
it
can
in the
move them along.
director's
That's right. In the
report.
time and use them along instead of
Yeah.
being delayed.
That sounds.
Yeah, we could add it into the director's report as a other project and a follow-up. And obviously make sure that we collect it moving forward to planning commission. And of course, if for some reason, it sounds like, the committee may be feeling comfortable in moving forward with the project, but if for some reason, as staff moves forward, that there is some issue with it, we could certainly report back and if needed, return. But otherwise proceed forward.
What the issue was that we all feel that he is in compliance with the 75%. It's just a
Mhm.
clerical error. And we
Mhm.
because of a clerical error.
Yeah.
But
Do you operate it under your name or is there another larger entity?
No, I just own the property, so I have
Okay,
my bona fide rancher is just a friend of mine who has been running cows out here for quite some time. And when, he was the only guy I really knew. I did know Vince, but I didn't know that was his, I just knew him through
okay.
other things, but Robbie helped me get it going. I took out there and showed him what I had. He's like, oh my God, you gotta get it open. There was cows on it apparently, but we opened up some pastures and showed, let's just the field, let's put the seed in, you keep the cows out of here, they stay over in this field to see, so it's a learning process.
Okay.
But we're, like I said, it's no Harris Ranch. And I have to feed them because the fences aren't good. You gotta lure them in with the alfalfa, so they're not going eating Brussels for free down there. And
Yeah, okay,
who did it before Robert Peters there was Bates.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why I was asking, because there's that exemption about the commissioner can vouch for the production of that property. And I was looking in our crop report and I don't have any numbers, but
Another reason to fill out your.
yeah,
crop report.
I know. Oh, you do?
well,
Oh, that's
just for the
what I'm
Williams
wondering.
neck.
Oh, for the Williams neck,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. We're a little different than planning. We're assessors.
Yeah.
We're with the agricultural commissioner. There's probably a million people want your information, so. I just,
But she's.
We want to live this full time so we can,
yeah,
really do it.
yeah,
Nice.
all right.
Keep the
We'll
fences.
send
nice.
you a survey,
Yeah.
so the ag commissioner, you want to fill that one out.
I may follow up with a call.
All right.
Other questions about the project or anything?
And let's see how this sounds. If I make a motion to approve this project based upon that at a later date, they come back to us and show us that they are grazing 75% or more of the parcel.
Project based on providing documentation.
Yeah, do we want to make it clear that we're not attempting to hold up the process? Yeah, so.
Thank you.
that's-
Yeah, I was just gonna ask for some clarification on that, so thanks.
Okay, to approve this project based on providing documentation to confirm actual grazing area.
Greater than
So they do
75%.
75% or compliance with Williams. and
Thank
Knight.
you, to confirm compliance.
I had the 2 numbers on there for prime ag.
Oh, enough
But I-
evidence
I left
today
out the
to
other.
push forward Has its-
To reflect
And that was a whole.
presentation, meeting presentation.
Yeah.
What I did.
Presentation.
Yeah, that's.
Clarifications.
That's great.
To group this project based on providing documentation to confirm compliance with Williamson Act regarding grazing area. To reflect meeting presentation and clarifications, that makes zero sense. Let me take one more pass at this. This project. Not pending.
Period after.
Based on meeting. presentation, Clarifications. They request for follow-up. Documentation to. Grants. Yes. In the effort to. Support the. Timely approval of this project. Let's see, okay. Motion by Peter to approve this project based on meeting presentation clarifications with a request for follow-up documentation to confirm compliance with the Williamson Act in the effort to support the timely approval of this project. Is that clear enough?
Is that what you said, Peter?
Bit of a Frankenstein of a, yeah.
Say compliance of Williams Act could be broad into specific.
75%.
It grades in 75% of the parcel or that out in Pacific is things, since that's the only thing that's in question. Because of the clerical error.
And then we'll just hit committee supports timely approval of this project. Okay, motion by Peter to approve this project based on the meeting presentation clarifications with a request for follow-up documentation to confirm compliance with the Williamson Act regarding grazing 75% of the parcel or greater. Please note the committee supports the timely approval of this project. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Very well stated, Peter.
Thank you, Peter, over there.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote and let's go on number 7.
That's why we're gonna miss you, Lauren.
Yeah. It was you guys too. I'm looking for, if you guys know a spot like right over the county line,
There you go.
let me know. Okay. Motion on the vote to approve this project based on the meeting presentation clarifications with a request for follow-up documentation to confirm compliance with the Williams Act regarding grazing 75% of the parcel or greater. Please note the committee supports the timely approval of this project. Okay, James.
Yes.
Not Natalie, John,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Kate, Ryan Casey, I just read your full name, Jonathan.
Yes.
And I'm Lauren and I vote yes. Passes unanimously.
Very good.
What is this? Easy.
Yeah.
Three first names.
You're all three egos? Yeah.
Well, usually your middle name. Yeah, just call me Charles.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming to our first in-person meeting.
Thank you.
In so long.
Been to a committee meeting in a long time.
Neither have we in person at least. But yeah, I appreciate you coming out and answering all the questions.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you. And I guess we don't
Thank
have
you, Summer.
any other items on our agenda.
No.
Thank you,
was it.
Summer.
Thank you all, and thank you to Jonathan for helping set up this Zoom opportunity.
Just for logistics purposes, can I take you on that?
Not at all. It was super easy. I just plugged in the HDMI, posted the video, or Summer hosted it into your lane. So, yeah, really straightforward. I was just concerned that the mic wouldn't pick us up, but walked back in the room and it did. And it sounds like we're gonna get an owl, or the county's gonna get an owl too. So there's potential to include that maybe in the center or something like
Okay,
that.
great.
But yeah.
Summer, were you able to hear?
Yeah. Yes, I don't know if everyone, hopefully people in the back were able to hear, but yeah,
Yeah.
was able to hear everybody and got it recorded. I'll probably follow up with members just to see, for the next meeting, if there's,
Good change.
any suggestions for improvements or anything, logistics coordination, whatever.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, if you have to miss something,
I'd like to officially adjourn the meeting.
oh, yes, thank you.
7:47. Thank you, thank you.
And the time, I'll follow up with you guys to make
Sounds
sure the time is good for everyone still moving forward. Yeah,
Appreciate that.
or feel free to shoot me an email, if you have any suggestions on, improvements, comments, whatever.
I should just let you know, and this is out of the thing, Michelle Dragony from Protect Buzz texted me during the meeting asking why it wasn't public, so I'll clarify for her that it's just a process and it should be public for the, it should be virtual for the public to participate starting the next
In
meeting.
April, yeah,
But just a heads up in case you get a question.
thanks.
Yeah. I could have been a lot of comments.
Yeah.
This could go to midnight.
I know. I've had help before.
Yeah. You have my contact.
Did a lot of work with the
Yes.
property.
Yes,
did a lot of it. Yeah.
They keep sending the things like.
Oh, I was gonna say, we're gonna actually. It's the secretary.
Yeah.
The cards. and I'm Yeah. Yeah. Like. But, I mean,
Quite a bit.
Okay. I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're.
Yeah.
A lot of staff support.
Yeah, big project. Surveying and.
I mean, they need support.